Welcome to our next unit in Year 10 Maths, Financial Maths. I'll skip over the activities at the start here. You can have a look at those in the PowerPoint from the website in the links. Alright, so today we're talking about simple interest, where that red arrow is, exercise 1.1 in the Pearson textbook, grade 10. So we're going to calculate simple interest. Why? Because it shows you how much it'll cost you to borrow money to buy things if you don't have the money first. It'll also, the opposite of that is if you put money into like a term deposit, it's how you work out how much interest you can get paid from that, how much you can earn out of it. So if you think about these images on the screen here, have a think about if you wanted to buy some of those things, you'd need the money to buy it. Now you either go to work and you earn the money, or you borrow the money somehow. You could borrow the money through credit cards, lay-bys, some sort of hire purchase, whatever. And so here's an activity to have a go at. List some of the things that you think you may want to purchase when you're older, things that you'd like to have or things that you'd like to do. And question 2 is the important one down here. How would you pay for it? What sort of ways would you use about paying for it? Have a go at that before you go on. Okay, so there's a few methods of buying things. You can buy things with just straight cash, which is usually easier. And related to that is if you have the money in the bank and you do like an electronic transfer, it's the same sort of thing. It's like you've already got the money to buy it. If you don't have the money to buy it, you could use a credit card, typically at high interest rates. Lay-by, typically there's a fee for that. A deferred payment, sometimes it's like a buy now, pay later type arrangement. A little bit similar to the buying on terms, whereas you buy something and you may not necessarily pay for it straight away. Typically if they say that there's no fees, there's usually a fee factored into it somewhere that you don't actually see. These things don't come for free. Or a straight out loan for things, be it a loan for a house or a loan for a car or whatever. Okay, so some basic concepts. When we get a loan, there's a few things that we need to keep in mind. We have our lender, that's the person who has the money, and we have our borrower, that's the person who doesn't want it but needs it. The borrower or our lender will earn an income on the money that they lend. That income is what we refer to as the interest, and the amount of money that they're lending, the amount of money we're starting with, is the principal. That's what we call the principal. The borrower is the person paying this interest and they pay it to the lender. Okay, that's the extra money that they pay back to the lender as well as the principal for borrowing that money. Okay, typically simple interest, we calculate our interest rate on an annual basis. Another way of saying annual is per annum or PA. So if you see an interest rate like 6% and it might say PA next to it, it means per annum, which means per year, annually. All right, so here's our formula. I equals PRT, and that's the important one that you need to remember. All right, it's a very simple one, but that's what we need. I is the interest, the actual amount of interest that you have to pay. P is the principal, the actual amount of borrowed or invested. So it's the amount of money that you start with at the start. R is the interest rate per time period. Usually in these scenarios, our interest rate we write as per annum, per year. So if you get a question that says the interest rate is 3% per 6 months, well, just double it to make it per year. That would be 6% per annum. And T is the number of time periods. Usually in this case, it's the number of years. Now you can remember that I equals PRT. We can have a look at this little triangle thing. The way to do this one is if you cover up the one that you want to find, typically you'll find out what the formula is. So if you cover up the I there, I equals P times R times T. Another way of looking at it is if you want to find the amount of time, so you're given the amount of interest that's paid, you're given the principal in the question, and you're given the interest rate, you need to find T. You cover up T, and what are you left with? I over P times R. Okay? And that's another way of showing it. Let's have a look at some examples. $20,000 is borrowed for 5 years at an interest rate of 6.5% per annum. If the interest rate is calculated as simple interest, what do we got to find? The amount of interest and the total amount to be repaid. A good way to think about these questions is your formula is I equals P R T. Right. It says find the amount of interest charged. So that's I that I want to find. P, it says here $20,000 is borrowed. That's what we start with at the start. 20,000. R is my interest rate, 9.5% per annum. Now, we don't put 9.5% into our calculators. We want that as a decimal. So typically it's 9.5 divided by 100. Okay, if you put that into your calculator, 9.5 divided by 100 is 0.095. That's what it'll tell you. You can put this figure into your calculations, or you can just make your life easy and use that one there. 9.5 over 100. I'll show you that in a second. And T, what do I know about T? It says 5 years. So T is 5 years. So, write down my formula. My principal is 20,000 times my interest rate. We'll do it this way. Now, if you know that that is that, you can just put that number in and times 5. T is 5 years. We put that into a calculator. How do we do it? We go 20,000 times 9.5. This bit here means divide by 100 and then times by 5. That's the buttons you push on your calculator. 20,000 times 9.5 divided by 100 times 5. And what does that work out to be? Here's my answer here. So we've written out what we know in that little line there. We've written the interest rate as 0.095 and it's $9,500 is the interest you pay. All right. Now, in part B, the total amount to be repaid. So the total amount to be repaid is the principal that you borrowed plus the interest. The principal's 20,000, the interest was 9,500 because we got it from just up there. Add them together, you pay back $29,500 because you didn't have the $20,000 to start with. Let's have a look at this example. Find the information that's missing. So in part A, $200 interest is paid on $5,000 after 6 months. So it's like you have $5,000, you put it into a term deposit and you got $200 after 6 months. So let's work out how we do this. You can see here in our working, we write down the IPRT to make life simple. Interest was $200 because it told us that in the question. Principal was $5,000. That was the investment of $5,000 that you started with. The interest rate that hasn't been listed, and we know that because up here there is nothing with a percentage next to it. And the time was 6 months, which is, as you can see here, 6 out of 12. It's 6 months out of 12. We want the time in years because the interest rate is going to be in years. 6 divided by 12 is a half. Okay, you can use the triangle thing that we showed you for, I, P, R, T, and so on, and you rearrange your formula to here. The interest rate is the interest, $200, over principal times time. And if you see, you work that out to 0.08. That's a decimal. It's your interest rate as a decimal. If you multiply him by 100, you'll get 8. The interest rate was 8% per annum. Part B. So part B, I didn't read that one before. 350 interest is paid. So I know my interest is 350 on an investment at 4% per annum. There's my interest rate. So that would be 4 over 100. which is the same as 0.04, and after 9 months. So that's 9 out of 12. The only thing that wasn't listed was my principal. Okay. 9 divided by 12 is 0.75, and we just plug it all into the formula. Rearrange it using that triangle thing that we had before. Gets us this bit down here, and leaves us with this number here, 11,666.67. So what are we working out? We're working out the principal, which is an amount of money, so it must be in dollars. So you must have dollars written there, $11,600. Part B, 1,250 interest is paid. So no, that's my interest. On an investment of $3,000, we invested $3,000. So that must be what I started with at the start of the investment. That's my principal. And 5% per annum. 0.05. Okay, because 5 divided by 100. All right, that's the easiest way to think about it. Take your interest rate, stick it over 100. If you'd like to work that out to a decimal, you can do that, or you can just do it all in the problem. All right. Rearrange the formula. We want to find T, which is we've done down here. And what did we get? We worked it out to 8.33, and that is a time in years, 8.33 years. Okay. Now if you want to work that out, you can work it out to 8 years and 4 months. Okay, because it's 0.333 of a year. 0.333 of a year times 12 months in a year gives you 4 months. Okay, a few more examples here. I won't go through all of these. I will look at one of them, question 3A. $50,000 was invested, 6% for 6 months. Okay, the 6%, so the $50,000 is written there. The 6% I've written as 6 over 100, and the 6 months is half a year. Okay, so that don't forget 6 months is 0.5 a year. Otherwise, 6 out of 12, 6 divided by 12 is 0.5. Okay, and my interest rate 6 over 100 or 0.06. You can work it out however it works for you. This one here in C is going to be 3 out of 12. This one here will be 18 out of 12 months in a year, which will be 1.5 years, 18 months. Okay. This one here is just the same sort of question, but from another angle. Anthony's invested $1,000 at 4.6%, so we assume it's per annum. How long must he invest it in order to earn $100 in interest? It's the same question as what we did before. How long must be invested? We want to find time to earn $100 in interest. We're going to find the time. It's I over PR. I is my interest, $100, which is just there. P is my principal. Anthony invested 1,000, so we started with 1,000. He's in there. And 4.6%, 4.6 divided by 100, we've got there. And you work it out to be just over 2 years. Now in this scenario, we've rounded it up because we're only getting paid annually, so we assume that you've got to do it for 3 years to get at least $100. Okay, so remember, when you've got your little triangle like this bloke, firstly, identify the variable you're being asked for and reorganize the formula. The easiest way to do part A there is write out your I, P, R, T and start writing in numbers. One of them is going to have a question mark next to it, and you know that's the one you've got to find. So you can do part B here to rearrange the formula. Now, I don't want to talk too much about compound interest today because we'll talk more about it tomorrow or the next lesson. Compound interest is where the amount of interest changes each year or period. It's like you invest money for a year and then you get paid the interest at the end of that year. So say you've got $100 that you're investing, and let's say you're going to invest it for a year at 5% per annum. At the end of the year, you'll make $5 in interest. Now, in the second year, your principal now changes because you now have $105 to invest. So you can see at 5%, your interest is going to go slightly more. It's going to be a little bit bigger than this $5 that we started with. And that's the idea of compound interest. You get paid the interest each year, you add it back onto the principal now increases, hence the interest at the end of that year increases. We'll talk more about that next time. Okay, have a go at the questions. Try to concentrate on the ones that just do simple interest, because we'll deal with compound interest more in the next lesson. Okay, thanks a lot.